You're listening to Parasearch Radio with paranormal news, views and reviews from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web at Parasearch Radio. The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the KTPF Reload Show. In case you're wondering what the Reload Show is about, if you haven't heard previous shows, these are the interviews that were conducted by good friends of mine, Steve and Sue Taggart, in the days of the KTPF radio show. Their own radio show ran for just over 4 years, broadcasting every week for over 3 hours. I joined them in the last 18 months of the show's run, but eventually the guys felt they'd just about had enough. It was a monumental effort to keep broadcasting every week for 3 hours. It was a wonderful show. But unfortunately they're no longer involved, and the shows have just sort of sat in the archives, so I thought it would be nice to bring them back to life and bring you the interviews that the guys conducted over those 4 years. They include some of the most interesting people within the world of the paranormal and some not so well known, but still, nevertheless still very interesting. We even have 1 or 2 rather unusual shows, including a live seance and other things along those lines. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed tonight's show, and this is the KTPF Reload Show. Enjoy.
This program deals with themes of an adult nature and is intended for a mature audience. They've landed.
You're in the right place. Online, on the web, and on air. All over the world.
Talk radio.
You hear us, we hear you.
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the KTPF Community Talk Show. My name is Suzanne.
And I'm Steve.
And over in Essex, we have our regular co-host, Andy Mercer. Good evening, Andy.
Hello guys, how's it doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Still not feeling 100%, but I'm getting there.
Dear.
So, I didn't help last night because I forgot to take my tablets, so I was in pain all night and couldn't work out why.
Oh dear. Something worse than trying to get to sleep when you're in pain.
I know. It didn't even cross my mind that I'd forgotten to take my tablets before I went to bed.
Oh dear.
So, and then I got up this morning, pulled my tablets out for the morning, and thought, oh no, I forgot to take them last night. No wonder I was in pain.
That would explain it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to take some medication for my stomach problem, and if I haven't taken it in the morning, boy, I notice by the afternoon.
Oh, I don't know. Well, we're here keeping the paranormal friendly, so pull up a chair and relax with us while we bring you a show full of the supernatural, the paranormal and other strange phenomena. And just to let you know what's happening today, we've got Susan Laybourne on the show. Sue is a clairvoyant medium and says she's had a fascinating life with some amazing experiences. And we're going to talk to her about her spiritual journey and on the mechanics of mediumship, how you do it, and the process of connecting to the spirit world. And she says it's a little understood area within the field of paranormal studies.
Hello.
Hello, Susan. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Welcome to the KTPF Community Talk Show.
Are we on now?
Yeah, if that's okay.
Oh, okay.
A few minutes early, I hope that's all right.
It's all right, that's fine, yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, can you tell us a bit about yourself, about your background and how you became spiritually involved?
Well, from being very, very tiny, I was always spiritually involved. And I used to annoy my parents tremendously by asking stupid questions about the universe and God and spirits and what does it mean when and things like that. And my mum and dad could never understand, because they were just normal working class people. So when I was about 5, they took me to the library, the local lending library, and said, go and get Janet and John or Bar the Elephant, or it'll straighten you out. So having found nothing in the children's section, I kind of wandered out and came across the esoteric section. and I came across this fantastic book, which was about the history of astrology. And my mum said, "You're not going to understand that. It's too old for you. Put it back." And just as I was about to have a tantrum in the library, the librarian shouted, "Choose your books, ladies and gentlemen, 5 minutes to go." And so my mum said, "Okay, you can take the book, but you won't understand it. It's too old for you." And I've always been like that ever since, that if someone says to me, "You can't do it, it's too advanced for you, too old for you, it's not for you," I've always gone for it.
Yeah.
So I got this book. It took me 3 months to read it, keep renewing it and renewing it and renewing it. And out of every 10 words, I understood about 3 or 4 words. But I kept on going because I didn't want to prove my mum right. So when I finished the book, she thought that'll be the end of that. And I went back and go into the children's section, find something. Then I came out again with a huge book on the history of the witch trials in Europe, this sort of kind of historical analysis of witch trials and things. So that was another thing, and of course there was no stopping me from that point. So I was a troublesome child, really, because I kept asking ridiculous questions that my parents couldn't answer and my school teachers couldn't answer. So most of the time I just sat at home. I didn't go to school very often, I admit that, but I read such a lot, and I connected to the spirit world very early. And the spirit people, they told me how to understand the words between the lines of the written book and so forth. So through working with the spirit world, they taught me how to understand these very, very advanced, complex, ideas and so on. So I read all sorts of things about the paranormal, about philosophy, about mysticism, anthropology, and all of the kind of esoteric currents and spiritual traditions, and that's how I started.
Mm. And how old was you at this age?
Well, I was 5 when I started with this, and by the time I was about 9, I knew that I wanted to be a medium when I left school or something like that. So I started learning all about tarot and runes and palmistry and astrology and numerology and all of the various divination systems, because I really wanted to kind of go into that and to be as kind of multifaceted as possible, even at the age of 9. And I got these tarot cards from a jumble sale, and I remember counting them out at this jumble sale, and I knew there should be 78, and I'm counting them out. I got, right, okay, yeah, got it, yeah, they're all there, and I think they must have cost me about 10p when I was 9 years old, and I used to do readings for, not in front of people, but I used to tune into someone at school who might be giving me a hard time or bullying me. And I think, right, okay, what's going on with this person? And will I be all right tomorrow? And I do things like that about the people who were causing me problems at school and so on. Because every day, from starting school at 5 to finishing at 15, there wasn't one day that I wasn't picked on for something when I was there. So most of the time I didn't go. So I'll be reading stuff and learning cards and connecting to spirit and meditating in the cupboard under the stairs and things like this. My parents were like, "Oh, it's a phase, she'll grow out of it." And of course I never did.
Right, so are we saying here that you're not the traditional clairvoyant medium, where they've always said to us it started when I was 4 years old and I started hearing voices and stuff like that and connecting to spirit? You actually trained for this?
I trained from it. I was taught by the spirit world how to better understand it. So from being very, very young, one of the first things that they told me was sit in the electric cupboard under the stairs in the dark and watch images and the visions come to you in the darkness. So I did this every evening for years and years and years, every night, sitting in the electric cupboard after tea, and my mum and dad would be in the front room watching TV, and I would be in the kitchen, in the electric cupboard, under the stairs, in the dark, watching these images starting to manifest in front of my eyes.
Right.
And I did that for a long, long time. And then after that, they started to give me other exercises, which were more objective clairvoyance exercises. but I'd never ever had a lesson. I've never sat in a circle in a spiritualist church or in someone's house or any of those sort of traditional routes. I was taught by Spirit how to work with Spirit.
Right. Okay. So that's how it all started, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
As I say, the reason why I said that is because when we've had mediums on before and we say, when did it all start? Oh, I started hearing Spirit when I was 4 and I started picking up from then. And it's always been the age of 4. So yours is slightly different. Yours is, it's as if they've come in and started teaching you the way.
They did. Because I remember I had these very... very nice spirit guides. I had two young men and a young woman. And if you imagine that, you know, a lot of people, let's say young children, their invisible friends are usually around their own age.
Yeah.
Mine weren't, you know. So when I was about 5 or 6, I had guides who were in their mid to late 20s. One guy, David, he'd been in a car accident. Another man, Jim, he passed with leukemia. And there was a young girl called Kathleen as well. And she was quite solid, and my mum once saw her in the hallway and thought it was me. So I had these 3 guides from being very, very young, and they were kind of constant advisors who would be my guides, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
And when I got to about 15... they said, we're going now, we have to go, but someone else will come in and they will start to look after you. And we'll come back in about a year's time just to see how you're getting on. And that was the last I saw of them, and then my first proper guide came in. And I was working professionally from the age of 15. And this guide that I had, a very early guide, she was like a gypsy girl, called Ezzy, and I worked with her for years and years, and then you know what happens is that they start fading out, and a stronger energy that started to come in that was taking me to another level or to a different stage.
It's a transition.
Yes, a transition time.
Yeah.
And as the others had said, you know, Jim and David and Kathleen, they came back, as they'd said, to make sure I was all right, how I was getting on, and then I never saw them again. But when, you know, they took me to a certain point, and then they said, we're going now. And it was a little bit like a friend moving away or whatever, you know, we will be around, but we won't be in your life anymore. You know, that was a very interesting point. But as guides come in, I think a lot of the traditions to do with guides, we can look at an archetypal tradition, we can look at a kind of ancestral tradition, but we can also look at this aspect where, you know, you become everything that the guide has to offer you, you become that. And then, of course, you're looking around thinking, well, where is the guide? I can't feel their presence any longer. Yeah. But you have fulfilled everything about that guide. And that then there's a next person who will come along and take you to the next stage. So I think that is one of my very earliest memories of the spirit world and how they taught me things.
So that is basically the guide's role to help you develop.
Yes, because a lot of people, when they have this mistaken idea, this very old-fashioned spiritualist idea, that when a medium is working on the platform, it's like a 3-way conversation, and the guide is saying to the medium, oh, it's the guy on the 3rd row, I've got his dad here, his dad's called, you know, Sid, and Sid wants to talk to his son. You know, Sid passed with cancer, and he's talking about his esophagus. And then the medium then goes, oh, I've got a gentleman here, blah, 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 and then gives that information. They used to believe that a long, long time ago in the spiritualist churches, that there was this 3-way conversation going on.
Yeah.
That does not seem to be the case any longer, and that may be the evolution of the spirit world, that mediums tend to work more directly with the communicators now, rather than through this intermediary person who helps sort out all of the information. But when you do need your guide is when you're sitting for the development of spirit communication, when you're learning to blend with that power. That's when you will get all of your teaching, all of your inspiration, your information that is for your soul development, not for passing that on to another person.
Okay. We've got a message in the chat room from Steph.
Oh, yeah.
Steph Murdoch Richards. He's asking, is it true that a near-death experience can bring on the sixth sense?
Yes, it is, absolutely. I had a near-death experience, and my own teacher, because I had a fantastic teacher who wasn't a kind of mediumistic teacher, but he was a philosopher, and he died twice and came back. And each time he came back with something special. He came back with an added dimension to his life that he had gained in his time when he was out of the body, in this near-death experience. And I do think that it does change people. They come back with an added understanding of the subtleties of life and the changes of the things that the spirit can do through being exposed fully to the power of spirit. Because we're in this kind of physical body, it's very rare that we experience being outside of that physical body unless you're, someone who does, maybe lucid dreaming or these sort of practices where you become aware of, being part of, one with the all that is, so to speak.
Okay. I need to follow on from this question, if you don't mind me asking. Steph is my son, okay, and he runs a paranormal group up in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, there was a time where he'd walked out of an investigation to get some fresh air, and hopefully I'll get this story right. And basically, he saw what looked like a drunk lady staggering in the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, he tried to help her. He lifted her up, and he felt as though he was lifting her up, and she was very light. And then after he'd finished helping her, he sort of walked away because I assume she said she was okay. He turned round and she disappeared. Now, there was nowhere she could have disappeared to.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since then, he's felt as though he's been picking up more than what he used to. He was a bit sceptical beforehand.
He never used to pick up anything, did he?
No, and he never used to pick up anything, but now, ever since then, he seems to be picking up quite a lot. Is this possible?
Yeah, it is possible. I've had experiences of seeing solid spirits about 5 or 6 times. Not in this, actually, no, once in this country, one time in Germany, but the rest of the time it's been in places like Malaysia or Indonesia, where when you're in the jungle, these different vibrations, these different energies are so raw. And it may be that what your son encountered was a kind of a break in the fabric of reality, a place where some people might call it a portal space or something, but where these vibrations can interact between the worlds so easily that people who are spirit or people who are interdimensional entities, for want of a better word, that they can quite easily come forward. I had a very strange experience. I was in Malaysia, and I'd been working in Borneo, and I'd gone over to Kuala Lumpur to visit some friends who I knew. One friend who was a lawyer in Kuala Lumpur. And he said, we must go and see this freaky island, this weird island that's so bizarre. Yeah. There's nothing on this island apart from the tomb of this Islamic saint and his 6 giantess daughters. And we arrived at the boatyard in Malacca at about 5 o'clock, almost, I think, a Friday evening, I think it was. And the boatman, he said, look, I need 8 people to go. I can't go for 3 people.
Yeah.
But go and sit and have a coffee or, a cool drink or something. I'll call you if anyone comes, but this time it's really not likely that anyone is ever going to come, maybe later in the week. Now, I was coming home, I think the following day or on the Sunday, so it was really my last opportunity to go and see this island. We were sitting there in this cafe, this pavement cafe near the boatyard, and then these 5 strangers just looked like they'd been dropped in from outer space, and they all looked, they have this fantastic Yorkshire word, dawnless. They looked empty of any sort of mental faculty or anything, but they went up to the boatman came up to us, and he said, come now, we have 8 people to go to the island. So we all got on the boat, and these people sat on this boat in absolute silence. But they were solid. They were solid like real people, but there was just something about them, like they were missing something, like some soul element or something was missing about them.
Yeah.
But we just thought these people are a bit strange. We didn't think anything odd at the time. We got off the boat, and this island, there is nothing, no tourist place, no bars, no shops, nothing, apart from this shrine. So the man said, come back in 1 hour. Well, we were back in less than an hour, and we waited for the appointed time, and these 5 strangers did not return. But they all had money, they all paid their fee to get across to the other side, and for some reason, whatever it was, facilitated an opportunity for me to see this island and this shrine before I went back home. And they were solid people.
Wow.
Yeah, the same in Borneo. I had a similar experience where I was called to do a kind of spirit release ceremony in a museum.
Right.
They'd had a lot of spirit activity in the top part of this museum called the Tanjuga Foundation, and it had been closed for many months. So they asked me to go and exorcise this place, and I went and I said, "Oh, the man who's causing the problem is," and I described this man. And over there, they have a certain tradition where it's very animist, and they believe in making offerings and so forth. And the man had said that he wanted an offering of, and it was fried fish and rice. And so the following day, me and the lady who was hosting me, we were going inland, right into what they call 2nd Division in Borneo, which is the interior. And we stopped at a noodle house for breakfast. And there was a man standing in the doorway, and he said in a perfect British accent, but he looked Chinese or something. And he goes, "Oh, it's you again." I thought, who is this? and I looked at this man, and I looked him square in the face, and he smiled at me, and he nodded. And in his hand, he was holding a dish, eating a rice and fish dish for breakfast, which they do over there. And I turned to my friend, and I said, "Do you know that man?" And as I turned for her to look at this man, there was no one there.
Yeah.
The same situation that your son experienced. You know, there 1 minute, gone the next.
Yeah. So it is possible.
Pardon?
So it is possible that
it is possible. I've had it on several occasions. And one of my clients in Leeds, her husband, he was having some work done, and I'm a big believer in things like, you know, offerings and, you know, making sure that if you ask for something from the spirit people,
yeah,
that you give a gift, such as some flowers or some, you know, something where, or like candles, something where you are giving thanks.
Okay.
And so this lady, who was the wife of this man I was helping, she was in the middle of Marks and Spencer's looking at underwear. She was buying underwear, and she's got these pants in her hand, and she's looking at the sizes. All of a sudden, there is a black tramp in the middle of Marks and Spencer's with burning red eyes, like fire, she told me. And he turned to her, "I've come for my tobacco." And she said, "Pardon? Where's my tobacco?" So she went hunting in her handbag, and she brought out some cigarettes, and she gave him some cigarettes. And then he started telling her that it was not from this world, and there is more to life than this. And she thought, "Oh, he's a crazy old man," you know. But as she was putting the knickers back on the shelf, on the hanger, she turned, and as she turned again, empty. There was no one else in that department. He had gone instantly.
Good deal.
And that was in the middle of Marx's.
Yeah.
Marks and Spencer's. Mm. So yeah, I really believe that the borders are thinning between these worlds.
Okay. Now,
you know?
Dan's in the chat room. He's asking, a person told him that everyone has some form of sixth sense, but they just don't develop it enough. Would you agree with this?
I would agree with this. I had this discussion the other day because, you know, a friend of mine, he was saying that, you know, you have to have an ability, an inborn ability. Now, I don't think that's the case.
No.
I think that if you have an interest, the interest is sufficient to actually start to open up this power, which I believe everyone has, and they're born with this power. It's something that is there within every person.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's on the surface, sometimes it's buried deep within them. But it may be that there's a certain situation or something, maybe a stressful encounter or something which will start to bring that to the surface. And once it starts to come to the surface, it will start to flower. So I believe that everyone has got some ability. Now, I know a lot of mediums that are not clairvoyant or not clairaudient, but they feel everything, they're clairsentient. And I've been very fortunate that I see stuff, I hear stuff, I feel stuff, I smell things. I have a lot of very open sort of faculties. But I know a lot of people where they only feel the information. For example, I feel I have a lady here with me. I feel that this is your grandmother. I feel that and all of this information is feel.
Yeah.
I feel she's about 5'2". I feel that she would have been quite a large lady. And all of that is just feel.
Yeah.
And one thing that we can do when we are in the process of development is by saying out loud, he's showing me, she's telling me, they're giving me the impression that. So if you say, for example, he's showing me, your own mental faculties will start to tap into those areas of the brain which connect to vision. There are 30 areas at the back of your head which allow visual information to present itself. And also, there are 3 areas in the brain that when they all marry up, you are also able to see things objectively. So you see things built up in front of you rather than as an impression in your mind.
Okay.
Because mediums and clairvoyants, we see in different ways, but the best way to describe it is a little bit like if I say to you, can you imagine your front door? That same imagining of your front door is the same connection that you would see if the spirit world was giving you information about someone's front door.
Right.
Or think of your dad, or think of your favourite pet or your son, and that information, when you think of the person or the thing, it works a little bit like memory. So the spirit person's memory and your memory work side by side, and the spirit person's memory overlaps your memory. So things that actually mean something to you, they will actually use that to facilitate their way of putting information across to you.
Right.
So there are lots of ways of working with this. But nowadays, you see, because a lot of people, back in the day, maybe 100 years ago, telephones were quite rare. But you didn't get a lot of people who were highly clairaudient back then, because there wasn't this idea of the communication by telephone. Now, most people have got telephones, they've got mobile telephones, they even get in the Facebook and the weather report and also on the phone.
Okay.
So there's a lot more information coming to people through your psychic ear sensing, through your clairaudience. But again, you can stimulate that by saying, he's telling me, she's telling me.
Yeah.
He wants to share, and that kind of thing. So it's actually helping your own ability, because it's not like there's someone standing next to you, screaming in your ear or showing you a whole lot of flashcards with information on it about a car crash or something. What they're actually doing is they are blending with you, and their memories become your memories. And whatever is your strongest sense, you will start to connect with that information through that sense.
Right. Now, I myself, me and my husband Steve, we do paranormal investigations now and again, and we've been doing it for 10 years, and we've noticed since starting that we've learned to pick up more. Now, I want to go on to the teaching, the training side of it in a minute, but Steve's got a question for you before that. But before he does ask you his question, I actually remember sitting up bolt right watching TV one day recently, and an image had come into my head of a time when I was a child, and I thought I dreamt of my granddad. Yeah. Sitting on my bed on the wrong side because it was up against the wall. Yeah. And my nan's when I never met my granddad, but when I told my nan about it, she turned around and said, your granddad must have come to visit you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd forgotten about that memory until one particular night I'm sitting watching TV, nothing to do with ghosts or anything, just a normal TV programme, and I went, oh my God, and it just came into my head. And my husband said to me, see, you must have always had that contact with spirit but suppressed it. Is that possible?
Yeah. And also because you're suddenly having that memory completely left field, and you're watching, some TV show, and then suddenly having that recollection, that would have meant that your granddad was making himself present to you again, and he would have been impressing upon you. You remember the time when you were small, when? And the memory of it would have come back, if not the actual feeling of your granddad being there and telling you about it. But you actually getting that impression when you were in a relaxed state watching a TV programme, but suddenly that memory of, now this is telling me something. And often this is how the spirit people work. And things about your relatives and people in the spirit world that you may have forgotten all about. That this information comes to you in times when you are relaxed. I remember once I was just sitting talking to my partner, and the spirit world is very, very present with me. My own loved ones and people that I've lost, they will interject in my conversations with my partner, and they will put their two penneth in, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I was aware of my dad's mum, my maternal grandma, the paternal grandma, and this strange little cough. When she used to laugh, she always had a little cough that followed it. This little, but I had forgotten all about that because she passed when I was quite small, and I'd forgotten all about this strange cough until she was with me again, telling me something to pass on to my partner, and then she laughed. And the memory of that laugh brought back a whole scenario of memories from, the things that we did when I was little with her.
Right.
So things like this happen very often, but we write them off. We think, oh no, it's just me, or I suddenly remembered something. But very often we need something or someone, whether it's someone in the spirit world who comes close, and they will prick your memory about something by them wanting to help you remember something that you may not even think you want to remember. But it gives you this uplift, doesn't it? It gives you a real boost.
Yeah.
To think, wow. And something, I've had people come through from spirit, and I've forgotten all about that outfit that she used to have. And then suddenly, there'll be someone in the spirit world wearing a particular brooch, or I forgot all about that. Whatever happened to that brooch? Things like this.
Yeah. Okay, Steve, you got a question?
Yeah. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Yeah. I've been told that mediums and psychics are the same thing. Is there a
No,
difference?
they're not. No. And one of the important factors is when a medium is working, they are getting the majority of the information from the space behind them. When a psychic is working, the information is being built up in connection to the sitter or the person who is receiving the information. So when a medium is working, you may find that their attention is slightly to one side. It may be that their head is slightly tilted to one side, almost as if they're listening to a series of pieces of information or something, as if someone is standing by their side. When I work, I have a kind of, and it's a scientific principle as well, that you have a kind of empty space where the spirit world will blend and connect with you. And the more that you empower that space through meditation, through extending the aura, expanding the aura, that is actually creating space for the spirit world to come and blend with you so that they can give you more of them. People who don't meditate or don't do any sort of development activity, what that means is that they're only picking up very, very bitty pieces of information which may or may not be related to things. So when I train people, I try to get people to stay within the same communicator for as long as possible, but to really look at the ins and outs and the depth of information that one person can bring, and it becomes a little bit like the story of their life or the things that they want to convey in a kind of ABC style. One thing that gives me a little bit of I'm a bit down on, I should say, is when mediums say things like, oh, and there's Bill, and there's Henry, and there was a man who had the fish shop, and oh, it's the birthday, and none of it is connected. It's all different things that are not connected to anything. But if the medium is working well, they'll say, I've got Henry, he tells me he's your grandfather, he wants to talk about his dog, the dog's there with him, he found the dog, it was a stray, he found this dog, and the dog was called Bones, this kind of thing. So we've got lots of information, all connected to Grandad and his relationship with this dog, which is building a nice memory for you to go, oh, yeah, or no, as the case might be. But rather than dipping in and out of all of these different connections where it's all very bitty and very peripheral, if we can stay with one communicator and go into the depths of their life and their memories and their experience of being a human being on this earth, and their existence and what that existence was, but still is in this different frequency, then people can go away feeling, yes, there is something beyond this world. But when it's all bitty and, when you give, 10 or 15 different names, once people get to a certain age, once people get into the mid-50s, you can say, I've got a Mary, I've got an Alice, I've got a Harry, you can pull half a dozen names out of thin air, and there will be someone that will go, yeah, I did have a friend, I did have that, oh, you saw an old neighbour, and there will be these connections. Okay. But what we want to be doing is to be working very much with the communicator. And so for example, if we have one lady who's there with us, and it's Mom or Grandma, and she says, Alice, I've met Alice. And you then say, okay, who's Alice, to the communicator. And then she may show you a photograph or something, because the recipient might not know who Alice is. Yeah. But then you have to create a bit of a bridge, and then say, okay, how does this person know Alice? Let me see how do you and Alice connect? And then they may show you a wedding scene, and the image will hone in on this, perhaps this nice slim lady in a nice hat, and she was a bridesmaid. And then you could say, now she's taking me to a toffee tin at your bottom drawer, and it's a pine wooden thing in your back bedroom, and there's a tin of photos, and she's showing me the photo, and this is Alice, who was your she was her bridesmaid. And then the penny drops. Yeah. You go, yes. But also in giving that, you've given the chest of drawers, you've given the back bedroom, you've given the toffee tin, and you've named all of this thing, where the information is, and described the photograph. So you've given 5 bits of information, rather than saying, oh, go away and think about it. I'm sure it'll come to you in your quiet moments.
Okay. Well, Steph's asking a question here. How do you distinguish from something being a spirit encounter or a natural human imagination or misinterpretation?
Well, this is where we have to be very strict, because very often, the spirit world always will use your own imagination to prick your mind about certain things they want to tell you. Especially when you're in the reading situation, or if you're in a one-to-one, or even while you're demonstrating, they will prick your mind about something that is connected, and it's a little bit like a train track, that it may be that you'll see your own granddad, which will mean this is the person's granddad who is coming through. Right. It's not your granddad, it's the sitter's granddad. Yeah. But there may be certain things about your granddad and the sitter's granddad that have got similarities. So you may start to describe, and then after a short time, it's a little bit like 2 train tracks going in separate directions, that the information about your granddad will fade into the distance, and the information about the communicator will become stronger and move forward. But the memory of your own granddad will just disintegrate.
Right. Okay.
So this is how we can distinguish that there will be a point where the two things just, go in the two separate directions. But we have to be very careful about our imagination.
Yeah.
But the spirit world will use our imagination, and you need to be very imaginative to be a medium, and also to be very inquisitive. When I teach people in groups and courses and things, I always say, what I'd like you to do is to go away and think about all of the things that you really enjoy doing. And there may be things that are not really anything exciting. It may be things like watching TV, going to the theatre, you like music. If you're a lady, you might know about perfume and makeup and things like that. You might be able to know about fashion. But basic things that most people living a life would have an interest in. But the spirit world, they will use your interest to talk about their interest. So if you, for example, if you've got an interest in perfume, their spirit friends, they will, give you information. She's showing me Chanel No. 5. Oh, she's showing me Charlie perfume, spray-on perfume. Oh, yes, she loved it. That kind of thing. Oh, I can see that she's taken out of her handbag and she's got this lipstick. What is it? Oh, Rimmel, coral in gold. These sorts of things. And they will use this information because if you've got an interest in things, they will use that.
Okay. So how do you train for mediumship? How do you develop?
Well, it's always an ongoing process. But I mean, I teach people. I have courses. I also work at the Apple Finley College, where people go, kind of week in, week out for different courses. But I have a course in Spain in June, and I'm only taking 5 students. So I'm going to work with people very intensively over the course of a week. And by the end of that time, they will be moving forward very intensely with the mediumship, because if you imagine a group of 5 people rather than a group of 25 people, then you get much more personal attention. You can get to, the ins and outs of everything. But for people who want to, perhaps set up development circles and so on, what I have to say there is you need to be able to get into a link with a student so that you can see, hear, feel, or know when it's going right or wrong. And this is what I do. So if someone is new and they are standing up for the first time thinking, I don't know if I'm making this up or not, if I can see it, hear it and feel it, then I know that it's not made up. Sometimes I'll say to someone, now, just go back and just ask again, because that's not quite right. And even before the recipient has said yes, no, or I'm not sure, I know it's right or wrong. I know it by the energy of the communicator and how they are working with the student. And this is what you need to be able to do, so that you're giving the student a lot of confidence that I'm not making this up. It is real. And if they make a slight mistake, you can try and help them jiggle that around so they're getting the best from the communication.
Right, okay.
So it's an ongoing process, and don't ever be kind of hoodwinked by someone who says that they're a fully developed medium. There's no such thing as a fully developed medium, because everyone is in the process of development. From starting to, if you drop dead at the age of 86, you're still in the process of unfoldment.
Right.
And it is more of a process of unfoldment rather than development, because development's more like, developing a muscle. But unfolding, that's something that is there from within you right from the beginning of time. And it's there with you. It's just been unfolded like a Christmas present.
Right, okay. Now, when it comes to meditation, I believe that's a major part of the developing.
It is, and again, I think some people they take the wrong way around it, because they look at things such as creative visualization. You're walking on a beach and you meet a guide, and a guide's got a fancy robe on. Look at the colour, and he gives you a gift. These are not helpful exercises for the development of mediumship. Exercises that I teach, and also that have been found most beneficial for mediumship are things where you are expanding your energy field out into infinite space. because in the expansion process of expanding your energy field, you are blending with a world that you are trying to become at one with. So you and that world are interconnected, almost like going into a kind of pixelated form, so that you are extending and expanding your energy into all of nature, into the universe, and just being lost in that emptiness and not looking for anything. I want people to come back from a meditation and say, I got absolutely nothing, I was just lost. And that is fantastic, because when people come back from a meditation and they say, I saw this man and he gave me a crystal and I heard this and I felt that, they've not been deep enough.
No.
As we go through the layers and levels of the meditation, when we're going into the beginning parts of the theta brainwave state, what will happen is your own mind will throw up all sorts of images, colours, faces, faces you don't recognise, images, you name it, because the brain is saying, come on now, we need to have something to interest you, come on, and the brain will start to manufacture images that will be nothing, that they are not really anything to get attached to. And within things such as Buddhism, they talk about non-attachment. So we have to get completely out of this, oh, what was that? And oh, it's a message, and oh, it's a guide. Forget all of that. Just be aware of it, move through it.
Yeah.
Because if you get attached to the first images that you're getting, you're not going to get into the depths of that theta brainwave state where you are held in that power.
I struggle with meditation, I'll be honest with you, because I've been told that, for instance, I should imagine a white room. I can't imagine a white room, to be honest with you. That I'm walking in a white room and it's all blank and what have you, and then seeing what's coming towards me, what I can see and blah, blah, blah. I struggle with that, but I have the relaxation with it. Yeah. So I just do that.
I think that, personally, being given this visualisation of the room, that is... I don't think that's really helpful.
No.
I think that might be more of a practice that you can do as an exercise. You're in this room and someone comes in and they sit down and start talking to you. I've done an exercise with students where you're in a restaurant and you're aware of two people having a conversation about someone who's your sitter. But the information is going on at the table behind you. So that extending your energy out and behind, putting the trainee medium into a state of familiarity, such as I'm sitting on a bus or I'm in a taxi or I'm driving or I'm eating a nice meal and I can hear a conversation or I'm aware of the discussion going on a few tables behind. That is something where you are extending and stretching your senses. But
right.
I don't think these practices where you're going into a beautiful temple and there's all these people from every faith and there's all sorts, all these spiritual people all gathered and someone's going to pick you out and they're going to be your guide. You name it, been there, done it, seen it.
Yeah.
Going back to to be blunt, when Adam was a lad. All of these practices, they're quite useful when it comes to keeping the mind occupied, but you're keeping the mind occupied with its own unconscious. You're not occupying the mind with an external mind.
Right, okay.
It's not an external mind, it's your own higher self.
Right, we've got some more questions for you in the chat room. They're coming
all right, love.
Thick and fast. On the subject of meditation, Janice, who's the other part of Lancaster Paranormal with Steph, she says she's been told that meditation could be dangerous as the spirits can enter your body while you are doing it. Is this true?
No, it's not. One thing that I think that people get the wrong idea of is that no spirit comes into your body. Even when we're seeing these I remember once seeing Derek Akora on TV, oh, I'll flip your gizzard, oh, it's got me. All of that. None of that is genuine activity. Even being out in places like Brazil and Africa where they have these spirit possession traditions, it's when the spirit world come very close to you, because it's an unfamiliar sensation, people may interpret that the spirit is within you. It's never within you. It may be very close within your energy field, but it's not inside your body.
Right, okay.
So when we meditate, we may have a certain set of rules that we set up with the spirit friends and say, this is the sort of thing I'm looking for. This is the type of activity I'm looking for. This is the thing I'm hoping to develop. Please help me do that.
Okay.
And through making a statement of what it is that you're hoping to achieve, then the guides can help you to try and achieve that.
Right.
But rather than just sitting there empty, going, "Oh, whatever's there, come and show me yourself," or you are leaving yourself open. But I must say that if we approach things like meditation with an element of fear, then we are going through being fearful. We will activate something to be frightened of.
Okay. Right, this other question comes via Steph. A friend of his is actually listening on the phone, and he wants to know, it's a bit of a long question, so bear with me. Can I ask you if, hold on, it keeps jumping up, if you are a kind of a medium but afraid, and is it wise to join a spiritualist church to develop the skill? He said he's kind of a medium but unsure if he wants it or not. He's only listening at the moment and wants to know basically if he will be able to control it better, etc., and how long could it take?
What I would suggest is that if you are frightened of something, we have to address why we're frightened of it. For example, I live in a Northamptonshire village now. I don't live in Leeds any longer. I live in a small village. When we first moved here, my partner was talking to one of our neighbours, and he told this neighbour what I do. And he goes, "I don't believe in that." And it turned out that it wasn't that he didn't believe in it, but he'd had that many experiences that it frightened him, and he chose not to open that box, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so when I hear people saying that they're frightened of something, like any sort of fear, we have to wonder what is it that is frightening us. Is it? It could even be some film that they saw when they were 7, or something like that, or something that an old ghost story, or something which has lodged in the mind, and it needs to be. We need to break that fear. Sometimes the only way we can break a fear, feel the fear and do it anyway, but that's not really very helpful, because if, for example, you're in a development circle, in a church or in someone's home, and then you get your first opportunity to do a service, and you're on that platform with, it may be a small gathering, there may be 30 or 40 people all looking at you, and first of all, we have to get through the fear of spirit, but also performance fear. I'm on stage, even though you're in a church platform, it's that feeling of, maybe when you were, in the school nativity play and you forgot your lines or something. It's that same thing kicks in. Now, when we have the energy of the spirit world, when they are blending with you in a church environment or on a platform, in a hall or a theatre or wherever, where we are in that stand-up situation, you are kind of held in this vortex of energy. And all mediums get this, where it feels like fight or flight. Now, I interpret it, it's not stage fright or fight or flight, but what it is, it's the excitement and the anticipation of all those minds who are going to come through from the spirit to speak to their loved ones in the audience tonight. But it's that excitement that you fear. Now, if you take away the imagery of what it is that you're doing, excitement and fear are the exact same bodily location in your body. It feels exactly the same. It's only what your mind does with it which translates, whether it's fear or excitement or what it is. So fear and excitement, they are two poles of the same emotion.
Right. Okay.
So if there is a fear, we need to just work with that, because fear will freeze this power. The only way to get through that fear, and this is for people who are perhaps going out demonstrating and they're not sure if they're, if they're ready or not, and it's all a bit new. And how we can get through that fear is through doing something repetitive, because fear rises in the amygdala.
Okay.
And the only way that we can process that fear is to do a repetitive action such as pacing, maybe a little bit of dancing, or going for a walk or something like that. Some people, I've been learning to drive for 2.5 years. I'm terrible at it, so I wouldn't say driving would be a good thing.
No.
But some people, I get this feeling of relaxation if they go for a nice country ride or drive or something.
Yeah.
Whatever gives you that feeling of peace through a tranquil activity. Maybe Tai Chi. If you know a Tai Chi form very well, just doing a little bit of that. Something which is repetitive, and that will actually change, because everything in the brain, apart from the pineal gland, is in double. So fear rises on the right side of the amygdala, and then it will move over into the left side of the amygdala, where it becomes bliss. It becomes blissful, and then you are held in that power of spirit.
Okay.
And you are no longer frightened. But if your caller does have some sort of fears, it may be that, yes, it's there, but it's not right to develop it just right now. And that may be that I'm always very careful when I say to people, you've got to be careful who you put your soul in the hands of. It might be that they've not found the right teacher, they've not found the right group, and I would say it's better just to sit and meditate on your own than spend, 10, 15 years in a group where you don't feel safe.
Okay. We've got Dan, who's come back to mediumship. He says he finds your comments about, not mediumship, sorry, meditation. He finds your comments about meditation very interesting, as when he does it, he listens to some shamanic music at the same time, and he can drift off to some places that he would never even thought about. So is he doing it the wrong way?
He's not doing it the wrong way if he wants to achieve a shamanic state of consciousness.
Okay.
They have different states of consciousness, where if he's hoping to achieve a spiritualistic state of trance, he's not looking for trance, he's just looking for meditation. But what we do through these shamanic states is that the shamanic consciousness is a very visual consciousness. So it is in that kind of early stage of the theta brainwave where we are seeing things, interacting with a scenery. There's a landscape and characters and people who you will meet within that landscape. And I think it's sometimes a good idea within that sort of shamanic sort of practice is to go to a place which may be a place in nature, whether it's a place you've been to or not been to, and just sit at a gate or sit at the base of a tree and be aware of the interactions that you get over the course of perhaps 2 or 3 weeks. Do it each night. Now, I did this as an exercise many years ago as part of a group activity where everyone in the group, we were all going to do this exercise every night, going into this shamanic landscape and seeing who came. And over the course of time, I started to interact with this Guatemalan woman, and I used to go and meet her in the cave, and she would sit and she'd talk to me in the sort of shamanic landscape. And this happened and the group didn't meet for several weeks because people were on holiday and then someone was sick and this kind of thing. I was doing this exercise for about 6 weeks. And when I went back to the group, most of them had gotten fed up after 2 or 3 nights and not bothered. And I'd been doing it every night for about 6 weeks. After about 3 or 4 weeks, that world started to come into this world. It was like opening a portal and the two worlds were coming together. So what I realised is that these exercises where you're interacting with a shamanic sort of scenery and shamanic reality, that you have to do them for maybe 2 to 3 weeks and then have a break. Where you concentrate on this world, do very maybe basic breathing exercises, that kind of thing, and then start again a new cycle.
Okay.
Because what will happen is that you're so used to opening up this portal that this portal comes into this world, and you may find that you will have experiences of that other world in this waking world. So I find that very interesting as a shamanic state of consciousness, because there isn't just one shamanism, there's not just one consciousness. They realised this a very long time ago, that they started looking at the different states of consciousness. And when I talk about my altered state, you could be talking about your altered state, and we could be talking about completely different states.
You actually, I had one question I was going to ask, and you answered it. I asked it, so don't worry.
Go on.
You talk about shamanic landscapes, and shamanic landscape was the word I sort of caught and thought, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, because obviously there are shamans out in sort of Siberia and Australia that are genuine, obviously, ancestral shamans, not someone in a modern city who's become a shaman. But then you answered the question, you said different landscapes, different mindsets, so more than one form of shamanism. So you answered my question without me even asking it. I'm Andy, by the way, the other host, who's been rather quiet.
Oh, hi, Andy. You've been quiet, darling, haven't you? What I was going to say, because my shamanism, I've done my work in Indonesia and Malaysia, and a little bit in Brazil, but a different form. So my understanding of shamanism has come from different backgrounds. But I've never been one of these to say, go on a weekend workshop and bang a drum on Brighton Beach with a lot of people in shell suits and feathers in your hair, and you're going to get some genuine experience. You won't get a genuine experience that way. So I believe in going into nature, and nature will teach you. But different shamanic traditions and different shamanic practices result in different experiences. The shaman will go into his altered state, and another reality will be there that he interacts with, this other world that is like a dreamscape, but really real.
Absolutely.
Sometimes in the Nepali tradition, where I've worked in Nepal, and the practices that you do there, it's a little bit like bouncing like Tigger, but that will get you to a point where you think, my God, and the whole room changes around you. Wherever you are, this world will melt away and another world will replace it, and you will have these very solid visions of other beings, entities, in the same space that you are, and you are wide awake with your eyes open. And that is more the Nepali tradition. And then some of these other traditions, these Native American traditions, where, you may lay down on a blanket, or you may imagine that you're in a spirit boat or something like this, and you are right, you're going to another dimension. So lots of these different traditions, they are not the same. They are shamanisms, for want of a better word, because anthropologists have given them this kind of catch-all, that this is an appropriate word to describe trance practices, healing practices, mediumistic practices, where people are interacting between worlds. But if I took a shaman from Borneo, a shaman from Siberia, a shaman from Central America, and looked at their individual practices, they actually, if I wired up their brains, they may even be having completely different experiences. But regarded as shamanic.
Yeah, definitely. It's an indigenous, religious, spiritual experience. Yeah.
Okay. One question I wanted to ask you, Susan. I also do tarot readings, and sometimes when they're shuffling the cards and what have you, just before I do the reading, sometimes, not very often, I get the image of somebody standing next to the sitter. Yeah.
Right.
And I'll say something, for instance, I'm getting a woman with you. I can't tell, she's not telling me who she is, but she looks like a grandmother figure, that sort of thing, for instance. And she's just telling me, I don't know, that you're going through some bad things at the moment, but she's with you. She comes round you, for instance. This is what I've said on recently. She comes round you, and basically she feels as though she needs to be with you to give you a little bit of strength at the moment. But I'm not getting anything else for some reason. Well,
you probably are, but you're getting it in a way that I personally feel that mediumship is a full body experience.
Yeah.
And when you see mediums working on platform, you see them moving their hands quite a lot. And personally, what I feel is going on is that they are psychometrising the subtle system, the subtle reality all around them.
Right.
Because as the spirit world come and blend with you, all of their thoughts, memories, feelings, they're all available to you. Now, it may be that you receive that information in a way that, I think some mediums, that they would say clair-knowing. That's a really rubbish way to describe it, but there is a term called claircognizance, where you just know that information. You don't know how you know it, but you've received it almost as a download. One thing I would say is that in some respects, the communicator needs to be connecting to you, not standing by the person they've come with.
Okay.
Because you have to be a little bit careful, because often, if they're going for a sitting, going for a reading, going to a church or a demonstration, people will go, oh, I hope my dad comes. Oh, I hope my nana comes.
Yeah.
Oh, and their desire for that person will create a thought form for you to read.
But it's more with them, not standing near them. It's more, I get somebody with you,
Yeah.
So.
But when you start to investigate that energy, there's not a lot of substance to it.
No.
Because often what happens is so you'll be maybe better to say, I've got a lady here with you. She presents herself as grandmother. Now, if you can kind of feel into if it's mum's side, dad's side, but say, and I know you were hoping that she would come today.
Yeah.
And the person will usually say, well, yes, I did send out that thought that, I hope my grandma comes, or I hope my mum comes. Very often it will be, oh, I was hoping they would. Now, just because you've got that piece of information at the beginning doesn't mean to say that that's the communicator. That can be the thought form that they've built up in the hope and aspiration that please come. So me as medium, if that happened in my case, I'd say, okay, well, now I'm aware who it is that you were hoping might come. Let's see if they're going to come forward a little bit as we start to work with the the information and the reading, and let's see if they come forward, because you'll probably find that the communicator will be more connected to you rather than standing close to the recipient.
Yeah.
And when you do start to you kind of investigate or interrogate that energy, and it's a horrible word as interrogate, but kind of feel into that energy, you might find that you're not getting anything beyond an initial description and a few bits and pieces, which may be the sitter's own memories of their loved one.
Yeah, I
not
think
the loved one themselves.
That's always been an issue that I've wondered about often with stage mediumship or
It always makes me suspicious when a medium says, oh, I can see that there's a lovely lady standing right by you. What's she doing there? I want her here next to me. How am I going to get all of the information from her if she's over there?
Precisely. I always feel as though when I've given that information, I think part of me pulls back a bit and I'm a bit unsure of myself, you know what I mean?
Well, it's probably your own inner self that's saying, well, I'm saying this, but I'm not 100% confident that this is a real solid spirit person. I'm
not a medium. I don't class myself as a medium, but I do pick up now and again,
Mm-hmm.
I don't class myself as anything, and sometimes I think I do doubt myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, personally, I think that it's good to be like that a little bit, because if we go into things all gung-ho, like, oh, I'm the best thing since sliced bread, and, you're coming in for a fall there. We have to be very humble when we're doing this work.
Yeah.
And we have to be very aware of emotions and people's sensitivities and what, I'm quite tough and northern. So I've got maybe a different level of sensitivity to someone who's perhaps newly bereaved, and they're very raw and very, so you have to be very careful about how you word things.
Precisely.
I think that sometimes people, they don't realise, they go into mediumship because they imagine that they're going to be somehow respected for, things that other people don't know.
Yeah.
It's like they're looking for a kind of, how great you are, you're fantastic. You're not. You're just basically the vessel for another world, for another mind. So I always try and say to people, if you've given a fantastic message or a fantastic reading, well, that's for you to know and for them, them to be appreciative of. it's not for you to say, write it all over Facebook and say, guess what I told this woman.
No.
It's not your job to do that. But just to have it think, oh, I did well today, thank you, spirit friends, thanks for helping me.
Yeah.
Because if they're not there, you can't do it without them.
No, this is it.
You know,
what I mean?
you can do it, you poke around in that person's energy field and you can give them, something. But that's psychic information, which is empty of a communicator. And when people are bereaved, they want that person who's gone.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not always the case that they'll get the person that's gone, but they'll get that person's friend or, you know, brother or sister or who will come to say, they're here, you know, I'm looking, we're together. And then that person has been there a bit longer, they will often build that bridge, and then they'll come in for just a little bit towards the end, because the energy's not there, you see, at the beginning. They need to build that strength so that they can maintain a link between this world and that.
See, I always sit there and, you know, 1 minute I'm thinking, you know, even if it's not with somebody with me, you know, I think I can feel somebody next to me, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But then my next thought is, am I imagining it? You know what I mean? I'm always doubting myself.
Well, you know, the thing is that Gordon Higginson was a fantastic medium, and most people are aware of Gordon. You know, some of the things that he used to say that it's like, I want a man at the back, I want dad at the back, I want auntie in the middle, I want a granddad at the side, and he would know what he wanted where. Yeah. So he could stand up, make his first link and say, I've got father, I want to talk to a gentleman on the left-hand side of the room, I've got father, without even knowing that he'd got anybody, but by sending that thought out to the spirit world, that the spirit people would present him with the appropriate amount of people that would fulfill the sort of criteria. And it's also, if you say to your spirit team, because as mediums, we have teams, you know, we have different guides for different things. Say, I want to be able to, you know, bring somebody who is perhaps newly passed, or somebody who is maybe a little bit out of the ordinary. I went to a stage of getting loads of military. And I got cat badges and battle scenes and all sorts of things. And I just found it fascinating. And the more I found it fascinating, the more of it I got. So you may find that you have a certain penchant for certain types of communication. Yeah. So, you know, you may not know what that is when people first start out. Yeah. It's not like, you know, if, for example, if you go to medical school, you don't start out thinking, right, okay, it's my ultimate aim to be a heart surgeon. You might go to medical school, spend all that time, and then at the end of it go, oh, I think I'm going to be a toenail doctor or something. That might be the thing that is their forte. And when people first start sitting in development, they don't know what their forte is going to be. Right, okay. I mean, I'm not particularly maternal, you know, so I can probably count on both hands the amount of children I've brought through from spirit, because I'm not, my mind doesn't naturally go there. No, this is it. You know, so that is just something that is my little, you know, kind of stumbling block. Okay. But, you know, people who have, you know, died in battles, and granddads that have been in the Great War and things like that, or Second World War, the way my mind works will give me all of the relevant details of, you know, how they passed and, you know, all that kind of thing. But most people, when they're first starting, they may find that they've got an ability in a certain area, and a lot of people, they will stick with what is safe. I've got a nana here with a grey curly perm and a wraparound pinny, and of course, you know, she loves the garden and baking. The amount of people who stand up with that sort of information, what we need is, because out of maybe 70 or 80 years of life, you know, that person could have been a go-go dancer in the 20s. You know, so we've got to look back through all of these life experiences, these rich life experiences of the spirit people. And they're not just that tired old lady in the wraparound penny. They've got so much more to share. Is it true that if nobody's come to you in 30-odd years, they're never going to? No, it's not true at all. I remember years ago, I was in an open circle in Leeds, in the old, it doesn't exist now, but it was Bridgend Church in Leeds. And I remember in the open circle, we had this lady called Edna, and she'd never delivered a message, never spoken in an altered state or anything like that. And then it was I think a Monday afternoon, she just stood up in trance, I should say, didn't just sort of, speak out loud. And she brought through a gentleman in the altered state for a lady, and she said, that man has been gone for nearly 70 years.
Oh dear.
Spoke to a very old lady. I think it was the lady she was speaking to. It was her father who had passed when she was about 2.
Yeah.
And she'd never spoken to her dad. He'd never been through. It took him 70 years to come through.
Yeah.
But all of the information was correct because she had photographs and she knew what he did for a job, and she knew a lot about her father, but she didn't remember him, kind of rationally because she was so little. But this woman, she just stood up and spoke in trance, and it was beautiful, and I was there to witness that.
Right.
So it's not one of these things, and I've done it myself where someone who's never ever been through has come through, and I think often, it's a little bit like they look at the medium and they go, will that person understand my life? What I'm trying to convey to my friend, my relative, my neighbour, will they understand it in the way that I want to convey it?
Yeah, right.
And I think often if someone's had a very unusual life, you sometimes get that.
Right, so there's hope for me yet
teacher,
then.
He's very careful about the amount of the people he comes through to, because he has such an extraordinary life that most people, they don't get it. And he will only come through to certain people who have got the mental sort of capability to get it.
Okay.
So I don't get regular contacts from mediums from him, but because it would be such a bizarre thing that the information is unusual. Often, if the information is going to be unusual, sometimes the medium, in their own sense of this cannot be right. No, I can't give this. No, I can't give this. And I had a fantastic reading one time with a lady called Muriel Tennant. She's passed away now. And I had a one-to-one with her, and she came up with and she didn't know me from Adam. This was before I was teaching at the college, and I think it's when I'd gone there, I think maybe the first or second time down to the Arthur Findlay College, and I booked a sitting with her, and she started to come out with all of this stuff, and she could no way have known all of these things. She described the work I'd done in Borneo. She described the woman that I knew in Scrang, in the inner interior, who she believed she was giving me a guide at the time. But because of her connection with her spirit team, she knew that she would no way give a guide in an evidential sitting, because it just wouldn't be relevant. So she just trusted and went with it. Now, most people nowadays, they are very wary that they don't want to just keep on saying, I've got this and I've got that. Does it make sense? You understand? And as long as the person understands, just keep on going. Just keep on going. Because it's there for a reason. Now, that was a very, very evidential sitting from that lady, but she just trusted that what she was getting from her communicators, from her team, was correct. But I was sitting there going, yeah. And all of these things about strange ceremonies in the jungle and all sorts of stuff, she was coming out with it. Oh, yeah, that's correct, yeah. But she trusted.
Yeah.
And if someone had a very interesting life and done all sorts of crazy things, sometimes mediums, they will... It sounds terrible to say, but I had a Chinese lady. She booked for a telephone sitting, and she'd never had a communicator come through. And I said, yeah, probably. What happens is you go in the spiritualist church, you sit there, and of course usually the white medium looks there thinking, oh my God, I don't want to get a message for you, love, because it's going to be complicated, it's going to be difficult, and I'm not going to understand it. Or her relatives look the medium up and down and go, what are you going to understand about my life? Can work both ways.
Yeah.
So both connections fail.
Right. Okay.
So that is also a possibility because, again, like how we have in science, that in order for something to work well, we have to be in phase.
Right.
And sometimes when a medium sets off too quickly before they've got themselves attuned, it will be no, because they're not in the vibration properly.
Okay.
They have to get themselves in phase.
Right.
Or in attunement with the communicator and with that world. So we have scientific principles, but at the same time, most mediums are completely unaware of what these scientific principles are. But we can look at particle physics, quantum theory, neurology. All of these things support what it is that mediums do.
Yeah. Okay. Right, we've got one last question in the chat room from Steve Brown. Is there a dark side to spirituality?
I would say, the teachings of the SNU are things such as, there's, we don't go there. There's no such thing as dark forces and things like that. But personally speaking, this is my own personal belief that if there is light, there has to be dark. And in the old teachings of spiritualism, the older books from the late 1800s, they talked about these different layers and levels of the astral world. They talked about these different vibrations where people who had been, robbers and liars and all these. There's a space for everyone in the spirit world, and the denser the energy, the heavier that person's kind of experience and so forth, the more challenges that person has. But what we have to think is that just because I maybe experience something that's completely different to my energy does not make it evil.
No.
It's different to my own energy or different to my own experience, or it's an energy that's out of place. So I don't recognise it's what it is, and my own mind can mistranslate it, can make it into something that it is not. And before we know where we are, we've got horns and hoofs and, all sorts of bad things there, where really it could just be the person is misunderstanding or mistranslating the information or the energy that's there.
Right, okay, so how would we connect to the spirit world? I know we're running over, so I hope you're all right for these questions. Just to finish off, how would we try and connect with them, and how would they connect with us?
Well, what I would say is that just give yourself maybe a couple of times a week just to sit in the quiet with the feeling of expectation that there's going to be, at some point, someone will present themselves as your helper or guide. And a nice exercise that I think if you just sit there with your hands on your heart, not on your physical heart, but across your heart centre, so to speak, just sit there connecting with an energy that is pure love. Because when we feel from that centre of the heart, from the pure love energy, we're only bringing in love. Heart to heart, mind to mind, we're connecting with that energy. And one of the old mediums, going back to the 1930s, Estelle Roberts, she sat at this table, the spirit world had said to her, get a table, sit at this table, and sooner or later, something will happen and you'll have an experience in the spirit world. She sat at this table for, must be 6 weeks or more, and at the end she thought, oh, stuff this ain't going to work. And she got up, walked across the room, and the table got up and followed her. And that was the beginning of her activity. She got to the point where this is bunkum, it's rubbish, it's not going to happen. And I think very often people do get to the point of thinking, this is pointless, I need a sign. And sometimes we can ask the spirit world, please give me a sign that you're with me. Please give me an indication, give me a dream or an image or something. You can even ask for things such as apples, where the spirit will bring you something, a penny or a feather or something, or a piece of gravel from your favourite beach or something like that. But bring me something that I know that you're there and that power is real. And they will bend over, they will move heaven and earth to do that, because you move a few steps and they will move 10 feet, to come to meet you. But the first thing that we have to do is be like me when I was a child, sitting in the electric cupboard with the experience of just quiet expectation, and even just enjoying the feeling of watching those images starting to develop, and just being lost in that. Be like a child, have that state of wonder.
Right, okay.
Because I think that when a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm working with the spirit world," no child goes into this communication with the spirit world with a feeling of "I am working." I'm playing. That's what child does, don't they? They feel, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. It's fun. And I mean, this is my other friend in this invisible reality. This is my other friend. So they're playing. This sense of play that we lose as grown-ups. So get rid of this sense of work, but this idea of meeting this other world, and this is going to be a lifelong communicator, a lifelong guide who's going to start to help you in all sorts of ways, both material and spiritual, because as one side of your life is supported, all the other parts of your life are supported as well. So if just sitting quietly in a meditation, maybe with a candle or with a little bit of incense or quiet music, whatever is going to get you to that space of quiet contemplation.
Okay. Does intuition come into it at all?
It does, yeah. That is maybe one of the first things that is, it's the psychic ability in its rawest sense, that sense of knowing, and how these intuitions, how they work with us. It's basically through the autonomic nervous system, so that a negative feeling, that intuition that something bad is going to happen, that will be the first thing that people do get when they are small, or when they are starting to learn about this power. It's that someone's going to be ill, someone's going to die, there's going to be an accident, these kind of things. These are first things, how the intuition works, because again, looking at scientific principles, the principle of things dissolving or disintegrating or falling into mush, that is the first impression, is the strongest impression, is things, kind of going bad. Then when we start to work with this power, they call it entropy in science, but this feeling of entropy, as things kind of disintegrate and dissolve, that is the first thing to register. Then with practice, you can then start to go, I get a feeling that she's going to meet a nice man. I get a feeling there's going to be a wedding. I get a feeling there'll be a baby. That kind of thing, where we're looking at the more positive. But usually, the inspiration, that intuitive side of us, it kicks in with things that are negative first. Right. And it's only through training that it becomes, that muscle gets flexed, so we start to kind of get other things that are maybe more beneficial.
Right, okay. Well, we've run over time, and we've had plenty to talk about, and stuff we've already talked about. We'll have to get you back on, Susan, to finish part two.
I'd love to, that'd be nice. If anyone's interested in my course, can I just get... that sounds terrible, doesn't it? But as I say, I'm only taking 5 students, and I've only just announced it on Facebook recently.
Yeah, go on.
But we're going to Spain. My email, can I just give you my email on my website details?
Yeah.
Yeah, my website is www.susanlaybourne.com. That's Leybourne. And there isn't any information about my course on my website, but the phone number and the email and other things are on there, so you can contact me that way.
Right.
So that's that'll be a nice thing. If somebody wants to come along and join me on my course, that'll be fantastic.
Okay, my love. Well, thanks for coming on. It's been great talking to you. Very much of an eye-opener, and we'd love to have you back on again to do part 2.
All right, love, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
All right, well, you take care.
All right, night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Night.
Thank you for joining us in the chat room. Thank you for your questions, and we hope to see you all next week. And until then, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from her.
And it's good night from the Reverend Joey Tully of California for that spirit-busting, virus-eating, clearing out of computers. Yes.
Okay, so that's it, I'm afraid. And all that's left to say is keep the paranormal friendly. Good night and God bless.
Good night, everyone. Take care.
Night all.
This is where it's at.
Hello, Harry Price here. Good evening. If there's nothing myself and everybody else enjoy here on the other side more is the sit back and relax and listen to Parasearch Radio with its paranormal news, views and reviews from across the UK and beyond. Make sure to find out more about them on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web, whatever they are, to keep up to date with all their broadcasts throughout the week. And I hope you enjoy them as much as we do over here. Hello? Is anybody there?